as one brother put it.
We're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days. This is the end of the world. This is the end of the world.
Hello there, and welcome to the Last Days live stream, the show that brings comfort and distraction as the apocalypse unfolds. I'm very sorry for momentarily playing the wrong video there. Again, I need a producer. Where's a producer when you need one? Lovely to see so many of you ready and waiting there in the live chat. We have our moderators on standby because I know how unruly you can all be. What do you like? Lydia Bastet says, "Hi Lloyd, you're awesome and I love what you do." I didn't select this comment first because you've said that, just for full disclosure. Thank you. Greetings from Oregon. That's so kind of you. Thank you, Lydia. We also have Kat D. Is today the last day of the last days of the last days of the very, very last days? You will need to ask Stephen Lett. He seems to be clued in to at least some degree, although he did call it, I think, back in March, and we're still here having this conversation. In November, we have Christy Kellis. Good Lord! The final part of the last days are taking forever, like the vote. Yes, indeed. America still dragging its feet there with the transfer of power. Gosh. Sandy Prescott says, "Hi Lloyd, hope you are okay." I'm not doing too bad. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for asking. Today's been very busy because I wasn't expecting to have to put out a video, but I had to do something on the Aled Jones thing. I mean, how do you not do something on something so outrageous as that? Maybe we'll be talking about that later. Thank you so much, Annika P, for your super sticker. We have greetings from Brazil from Jamie Cruz. We should hopefully have Renato a bit later on in the show. He's busy working right now. He is, as we all know, a professional, but hopefully as time allows he'll be joining us later. Aaron Bolt says, "Hi everyone, so good to share these last moments with you guys." I know, if we're all going to be destroyed by falling fireballs, at least we can enjoy some last moments on this earth together. What better way to spend your final few minutes breathing air than to tune into the Last Days live stream? We have the Twinkle GG. "Hello from Glasgow, Scotland. Thank you for season 2 of this show." It is indeed season 2. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, we had a 2-month hiatus, which has allowed me to draw breath and not have to worry about what I'm doing on a Wednesday morning or Saturday evening anymore. But yeah, I'm back and raring to go. And very much looking forward to next Saturday, which is when we will have the return of the Last Days quiz. Denise Toth says, "I've been hearing about the Last Days since I was a little kid. I'm 54 now, still haven't seen it." Well, if you see it, Denise, please let me know. I too am struggling to see any evidence of Armageddon. Lancer Choate says, "Lol. So true. I hope we'll be getting a new president tonight. Who knows?" It's one of those things where the entire American nation seems to be just being kept dangling on that one. The tension is building. There's an unnecessarily long teaser situation, I think, over the pond in America. We have Rianne in the building. Hello, Rianne. Lovely to see you. Rianne sends lots of love from the Netherlands. And my brother might watch too. Wonderful. Simon Instone says, if I'd known about the fireballs from the sky, I wouldn't have wasted my money on these fireworks. Why have artificial? An artificial Armageddon when you can have the real thing any moment now. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is we'll go to the reading section, and what I've decided to do is actually, well, first of all, it would be really great if in the comments, not in the live chat comments, but in the actual YouTube comments, so that they stick, so that they're there for everyone to see. It would be really great if you could tell me what book you would like me to read. There we go. Because that might make things easier for me to choose something that's interesting for people to hear. But what I've decided to read for now, at least, is my own book. Then no one can sue me for copyright. Not that anyone has tried to sue me for copyright, but How to Escape from Jehovah's Witnesses. And I thought I'd pick up sort of halfway through chapter 3, planning your exit. So I shall proceed. There are two ways to escape Jehovah's Witnesses. You can do so formally by disassociating, or informally by becoming inactive, otherwise known as fading. The difference between the two could be likened to leaving an excruciatingly dull party by simply putting on your coat and walking out the door long before the party is over, thus incurring the wrath of your host and fellow guests, or excusing yourself in a less obvious way. Rather than announcing that you are leaving because you are not enjoying yourself, you might apologetically tell your host that you are urgently needed back home and you'll be returning later if you have time. Your host and the other guests spend the rest of the evening assuming you'll be rejoining them, gradually getting so drunk they hardly notice your absence. Both strategies will get you out of the door, but the impact on those you leave behind differs significantly. Sorry, I'm just noticing that I'm in the wrong microphone, so let me just change that. I do apologize. Right, hopefully is the sound a little bit better now? Anyway, it could be that you have no reason to care what your host or fellow partygoers think of you. Perhaps you barely know them, and it would be no huge deal if they think you are the biggest jerk ever. But if your relationship with these people is important to you, perhaps they are your workmates and you wish to avoid needless acrimony in the workplace, you will want to manage their feelings to the extent possible, even if doing so requires an element of deception. In the case of these people being your workmates, you have more to lose by your job being made difficult than they have to lose by being duped into thinking you might be returning. This is roughly the dilemma you face when deciding whether to fade or disassociate. The decision you make will largely depend on the extent to which you rely on personal relationships with those still mentally trapped inside the organization, especially if they are close family members. Of course, it should be the case that your personal, conscientious choice to leave will be respected and everyone will react to your decision like adults, maintaining their friendship with you irrespective of whether you continue to share their beliefs. Since 1981, however, Jehovah's Witnesses have been an organization from which it is impossible to leave with dignity. From the moment the following words were printed in the September 15th, 1981 Watchtower, disassociation has been punishable by shunning. Persons who make themselves not of our sort by deliberately rejecting the faith and beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses should appropriately be viewed and treated as those who have been disfellowshipped for wrongdoing. That's the September 15th, 1981 Watchtower. If you face the dilemma of whether to fade or disassociate, perhaps because you have loved ones still inside, you might read the above and consider your choice to be an obvious one. You might think of fading as the perfect loophole to exploit, allowing you to escape with family relationships continuing as normal, but this is not always the case. Once your absence from meetings and ministry becomes noticeable, you may be deemed bad association and subjected to a degree of shunning, even though you are still technically a witness. I call this preemptive shunning, because you are receiving punishment in anticipation of what you have not yet done, i.e. leaving the faith altogether. But unlike those who disassociate, inactive ones are afforded a measure of sympathy and goodwill by the organisation. For example, in 2015, a brochure was released titled Return to Jehovah, designed to reach out to such ones. As you would expect, the writers demonstrated that they are incapable of envisioning any circumstance under which a witness might fade that does not involve the individual being somehow at fault. Though there may be goodwill and patience extended to faders, it is conditional on a number of factors, namely 1. Whether they continue to believe, 2. How long they remain inactive, and 3. Whether they maintain Watchtower standards for the duration of their inactivity. As I will discuss in more detail in the next chapter, elders will usually not hesitate to take action if they come to learn that an inactive one is actually an unbeliever, especially if that one is open about their apostasy. When it comes to the length of inactivity, witnesses are encouraged to think of you as blood guilty if you continue to neglect involvement in the preaching work. For example, in a talk given at a branch visit to Trinidad in January 2018, governing body member Anthony Morris read Ezekiel 33 verses 8 and 9, I will ask the blood of the wicked man back from you. Morris then asked all in attendance, including those tied in over video link, to look at their hands before saying, only God, as he looks at your hands in here and all those that are tied in, does he see blood there? Humans sitting next to you, they might have an idea because they know you well and you haven't been out in service in weeks. Well, guess what? Most likely, God's seeing some blood all over your hands. Or they go totally inactive and we appeal to them, we try to help, but you cannot water down what God says. Here, if your hands are not clean because you've been out warning, then they have blood on them and you're going to lose your life. Granted, the faithful slave are rarely this blunt in their publications. Nonetheless, the above words well represent their view of those who fail to preach their ideas, and it is a view that filters down to ordinary witnesses. If you neglect to warn people that they will die at Armageddon unless they become Jehovah's Witnesses, in their eyes, you become worthy of death yourself. I have been reading from my book, How to Escape from Jehovah's Witnesses, chapter 3, Planning Your Exit. I will continue reading said chapter on Wednesday's show. I've had some live chats, some super chats through, lots of live chats. So thank you so much to, is it Nicole Mort Parker, for a very generous super chat. Hello all. Lloyd, I'm very happy for season 2 of the Last Day live streams. Woohoo! By the way, the Polish Exodus was expertly presented. Enjoyed it. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, the Polish Exodus, Nicole, was well, it was a thrill to make it. I really enjoyed filming it. It was a pleasure to go to Poland and meet some, extraordinary people. I will say this, I hadn't met any of the other contributors apart from Sarah and Edwin until I was interviewing them, or until I can't remember what happened first. I think I might have interviewed them first and then done the protest, but it looks the other way around when you're watching the film. So I really was meeting them for everyone other than Sarah and Edwin in that film, and yeah, just blown away by their sincerity, by their integrity, by their passion for what they're doing. And it's because of the support of you, Nicole, and other patrons that I'm able to just drop everything and drive across Europe and say, right, I'm going to make a film. I'm going to stay in Warsaw for 3 days and shoot a documentary. And the shooting part is relatively easy. it's the editing that's a real nightmare. And obviously, for a number of months, I've been distracted by ICSA and the convention season. So the Polish Exodus just got shoved to the side. But once ICSA was out of the way-ish, and the convention season was over, it was right, let's get back to this. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how it's turned out, and I'm thrilled at the response. I'm glad you like it too. And we have another super chat from Darwin. Hello, Lloyd. I'd like you to read my story on Medium. Just search how is like to be an atheist sucked in a doomsday cult. Well, if I have time, I'd certainly love to. And if nothing else, you've spread the word here on the super chat. So yeah, well done for sharing your story. I think that's actually something everyone should do, if they're able to. That is. I think it's cathartic, isn't it, to share your experience, whether in a video or in writing, and also what you're doing when you share that experience. You're giving people an opportunity to make a judgment on their own experience, especially if they're still inside the group. So well done there, Darwin. Arthur is a legend, says Annika. Well, let's put that to the test, shall we? Here is said legend pretending to be studious and reading my book. There we go.
Hello, everyone. I was very anxious to be back for season 2.
Why were you anxious, Arthur? I'm gonna push you on this. I'm going to interrogate you. Why were you anxious to be back on season 2?
Because it's so lovely to see all these friends of ours from all over the world watching the Last Days live stream.
You just want to win another season of quizzes, don't you? Be honest. Be honest now. Come on.
Well, my ego sort of pushes me forward, you know.
Simon Instone is feeding your ego, it seems, by bowing in front of the screen. Gosh. So yeah, lots of relief to see you back. Gabby Siren says, finally, Arthur is back. And Italian Vapor says, it's great to see you, Arthur.
Thank you, everyone.
So just to clarify, when we started season 1, you were on pretty much all the shows, weren't you? But then you went and got a job. How dare you? So now you can't be on the Wednesday shows. Is that right?
I actually got a job in mid-August. My first day of work at my current job was on August 17th. So that actually made me not to be able to join the Wednesday morning show. But I will be as often as I can on Saturdays.
Wonderful. Just scrolling up a few of these questions. So Debs Vista says, Lloyd, how's Jessica still in quarantine? I think she ended her self-isolation yesterday. No symptoms. She hasn't got symptoms. Her classmates don't have symptoms. Her teacher doesn't have symptoms. And as far as we know, she resumes school on Monday. So hopefully panic over. It was quite concerning at the time, though, because we're thinking, my thought was, well, we've evaded it for this long and it's finally caught up with us. But fortunately, and what's funny is, probably some of you can relate to this, when you are worried about coronavirus, I think you become hypersensitive, so that the slightest twinge in your sinus and you're thinking, or if you have headaches or whatever. But it has to be that combination of symptoms, I think, doesn't it, before you get tested? I was expecting Arthur to weigh in there with some trenchant observations of the coronavirus kind, but no, he's just agreeing. He's just agreeing with me, which is fine.
I was also reading some of the comments in the live chat.
What one would you like me to show, Arthur?
No, don't. Pick
on.
one.
You choose one.
No, because a Watchtower Watcher was telling me that I was an anomaly, just like the architect told Neo.
That's the one you singled out. So,
yeah, you're the eventuality of an anomaly.
Well, I can agree
The
with
result of an unbalancing equations of quadratic function.
I will definitely agree with Watchtower. Watchtower. Arthur is an anomaly. There we go. I've said it. Annika P says, I hope the whole family remains safe. Gabby Siren says one needs to have a few symptoms to get tested, like fever and a cough. Yeah, it's no use getting all worried about just one thing. It needs to be, like you say, a number of things together. Outer Darkness says, hey Arthur, I hope you have a song in your heart ready to sing with gusto as only you can. Is that a good enough boost to your ego?
Yeah, we will have a song later on today, of course.
So I'm interested actually to get your thoughts on the Aled Jones. What are we even calling this? Aled Gate or
Yeah, this it was a surprise for me as well when I saw the audio clip of Aled Jones's cover of Listen, Obey, and Be Blessed. And this morning, I guess it was like 20 minutes after you posted the video, I watched it in its entirety, and I said, "Oh my God!" So it's like, well, Aled Jones. I haven't heard of him until you made this video, but of course,
I don't think many people had. I've probably doubled interest in him, in his celebrity. Yeah.
Yeah. So he released an album of religious songs covered by him, rearranged by him, very professionally recorded, professionally published through Warner. And he mixes all these songs from different religions, including song 89 from the Sing Out Joyfully book. Actually, he takes the lyrics from Song 120, as they were published in the 2009 Sing to Jehovah songbook. I haven't compared the rendering
Comprehensive analysis
2009
here.
versus
Comprehensive analysis. Thank you.
2017. But still, he uses the original lyrics as published back then, with a own keyboard arrangement, piano arrangement of the backing track. It's very professionally recorded and mixed and mastered. And what was
almost to your levels of professionalism, it must be said. Yeah.
And it's very pleasant to hear. So he has a absolutely astonishing performance that makes our hearts rejoice, actually, when you listen to the track.
For almost any other religious group, including the groups that are already on the album, on the interfaith album, it's no huge deal. I mean, I obviously present three theories in my video. Number one, it's actually Warner's song. I think that's unlikely. Number two, Warner and Watchtower struck a deal. And number three, Warner and Watchtower didn't strike a deal, and Warner's going to be on the receiving end of a lawsuit. I think number two is the most likely at the moment. And the problem you have there, of course, apart from, making deals with Satan's system of things, despite constantly dissuading people away from Satan's entertainment system and against careers in the music industry, it's also the whole issue of interfaith. How can an organization that literally includes a question on interfaith in the baptism questions be engaging in an interfaith project?
And guess what? I was shoved into the back room for interfaith while I wasn't even a publisher, back when I was going to meetings and studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses in 2009.
Now I need to know what cocktail of religions you'd been involved in.
Well, I sang.
Were you in your Buddhist robes and sandals?
No. I was singing the song "Why Me Lloyd" in a Baptist church on Boxing Day.
Okay. With a flying spaghetti monster T-shirt on.
No, I was dressed in a white shirt and suit, and I was singing the same song that I also performed while
But
you were
you
out
weren't
in.
baptized, so were you an unbaptized publisher at that time?
I wasn't even a publisher. I was just studying the Bible.
Wow.
And I was studying the God's Love book.
Interesting.
In 2009.
So yeah,
and I made the mistake of syncing my YouTube account with my Yahoo Messenger app, and there was the YouTube link in the status of my Messenger app. And one dear brother, who luckily is no longer a brother, he got this fellowship or he disassociated or whatever, but he completely woke up from indoctrination several years ago. But he snitched me to the elder I was studying the Bible with. I guess I also mentioned this in my interview last year.
Indeed. I'm just getting a few comments through. Oh, right. Okay. Can you just check this for me, please, Arthur? It's people are suggesting that the election has been won. So
yes, I can check.
Marianne Lockwood has said Biden won. Yeah, a few other comments along those lines. Biden 273.
Yes, Biden won 273. Yep, according to CNN.
Gosh, so you could consider that the election coverage on the last day's live stream has been continuous, with just a small break.
Yes.
Between when we stopped airing on Wednesday and now, we've basically covered the election. There was just a pause between there.
Yeah, Pennsylvania has decided on Biden. So that's how we got those 20.
The state where one cult began gets rid of another cult. So congratulations.
So actually, Pennsylvania was the third state after Wisconsin and Michigan where there was a flip in the results. So initially, Trump was projected.
Well, the results were the results, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of an election is that all of the results kind of get collected. It's then just a case of counting them.
Exactly.
But the walk-in results are, for whatever reason, going to be different than the postal results, because it seems that the Democrats, due to COVID fears, perhaps, or other reasons, were predominantly voting through postal ballots. So as soon as, even though it looked initially like Trump had won Pennsylvania, once they started the postal ballots, it massively overtook.
Exactly.
But obviously, Trump's going to grab onto any opportunity to cry foul play and say, "Oh, this is all a huge conspiracy."
Yeah, it was rigged by the Democrats and so on.
Yeah, but quite frankly, he just needs to pack his bags at this point.
In Romania, we had a similar situation. I guess it was 8 years ago, it was in 2008, I guess. Yeah, 12 years ago, when or 2009 actually, because we have 5-year terms of presidency, where we had Mircea Joana, who back then used to be the Minister of Exterior, and Traian Băsescu. Joana was the Social Democrat. Băsescu was the future president back then. And Joana was sure all throughout the night after election Sunday, because in Romania we usually have elections on Sundays, all throughout Sunday night till Monday morning, that he won, because the exit polls were declaring him the winner. But yeah, there was very, very few percents of difference. And by the time he woke up in the morning, the results were turned, and Băsescu was declared the winner.
I'm going to be honest. I can remember feeling very, very uneasy when the first results started to come through. I can even remember messaging Javier and saying, Trump's won, am I wrong? Because that's how it was looking at that point. But, you know, as we've just explained, the tables have turned. But I think, look, I explained at the beginning of the last live stream, I can understand, you know, that there will be perhaps some people watching who are Republicans or who are Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. I personally think it's as clear as day that rather than being a purely political issue, this is an issue of a man who is a con man and a pathological liar and a cult leader, basically throwing America into hard reverse over the last 4 years. And it may take the first 4 years of the Biden administration to actually put right all of the things that Trump made wrong. Yeah. So I think this is a genuine time for congratulations for America. Yeah. It's not a fix-all. But as I said in the last live stream, a sticking plaster is better than people poking at an open wound, which is what's been going on in America over the last 4 years. So congratulations to
all the citizens of the United States who...
Indeed. Perhaps forestalling Armageddon. You never know. Because Trump's bloated orange fingers are not as close to the nuclear codes, or shortly won't be.
And yeah, I was also... following along Pastor Paula White's declarations about how Trump was considered as being put there by God. He had the divine calling to presidency. And no forces on earth or in heaven will go against the will of God to keep Trump as our president. Well, it seems things didn't go along as...
Isn't that interesting that Trump managed to both get and hold on to such a huge support among Christians in America? Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Given the track record of this man and given some of the grotesque things he's said about women, that Christians in sufficient numbers in America could just get rid of their professed principles and think, no, it's more important that we have this man because at least he is on our side politically. That was very disturbing to see.
Yeah, and that's the manipulative nature of cults, and how evangelical Christianity is vulnerable to such rhetoric.
Strangle wank hitman. Thanks for making me say that, by the way. I got interested in politics during the W. Bush years and the Iraq War, and it's fake news of WMDs. I don't think Trump's all that different from him or many presidents. I'd have to disagree there. I think, you know, Trump is so bad. I mean, George Bush was in many ways far from adequate in terms of his intellectual ability. I'm still thinking of Will Ferrell's hilarious impersonations of George Bush. He wasn't the brightest tool in the box, but George Bush still made Donald Trump look like a total pretender. George Bush at least had the look and feel of an actual president and of an actual statesman who understood the need for diplomacy, whereas Trump just didn't care, frankly, about diplomacy. All he really cared about was himself, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I don't think, even when it comes to George Bush, you can really compare the two. I think George Bush was streets ahead of Trump. It's difficult not to be. That's how low the bar was under the Trump administration.
I haven't seen any leader of a apparently democratic state as low as Trump in terms of administrative skills.
Indeed. Perhaps what we can do now is we can, because we're waiting, I'm hoping that Renato will join us later. We'll have to wait and see. But I think what's needed at this point is some celebration, a bit of light-hearted joy and fun. And there's only one segment that can achieve that.
hello, dear viewers, and welcome to the first installment of Sing Along with Arthur in the second season. Have you been waiting for this segment? Of course you have, because I received tons of private messages on all media asking me about Sing Along with Arthur. When are you coming back? What songs have you prepared? Well, would you do this song? Would you do that song? Wow. I was overwhelmed with your messages of support. It was heartwarming, actually. So, without further ado, let's do the first song in this second season. And I prepared a lovely song that's very appropriate for our show. Are you curious what it is? Let's see. Let's do some screen sharing, and let's. I guess we have audio, right?
If you've accepted it, yeah, I think we do have audio. Yeah.
When I am down and torn by the pandemic, and COVID seems to rob us of our hope, no other place than God's organization can help us now and these hard times to cope. Jehovah God, we thank you for the brothers who take the lead as Christ's appointed slave. We're taking refuge by heeding their instructions and show the love that never ever fails.
Oh, an air violin. We've not had an air violin before. Breaking new ground on this live stream. Lovely finesse there as he caresses the violin strings, as only a professional can. Doesn't even need to look at his violin.
You raised me up to preach about the kingdom. You raised me up to bring people to you. I am strong when I go out in service, and day by day your will is what I do. Jehovah God, we thank you for the brothers who take the lead as Christ's appointed slave. We're taking refuge by heeding their instructions and show the love that never ever fails. And show the love that never ever shuns.
Oh, yeah, nice little turn there at the end. Just a small criticism there, Arthur. Joanne Sahedo says that you were holding the violin on the wrong side. Can you just address that controversy?
I'm left-handed.
Okay, left-handed. Okay, it wasn't the wrong side, Joanne. Don't judge. Some people are left-handed. Gosh. Well, that was certainly a song. There was definitely vocals there and music, and there was a lot of energy, and so and lots of comments. So for all of these things, we can applaud the efforts that's been made there. So well done, Arthur.
Thank you, thank you.
Alicia Giordano. Hello, Alicia. Hello, everyone. It's been a while since I've tuned in. Hello, Lloyd. Hello, Alicia. Susan is feeling triggered, apparently. One or two people saying that you are giving Aled Jones a run for his money. So there we go. So we have with us. He seems to have been enticed here by the lovely strains of Arthur's melodious singing. Is that what brought you here, Renato?
Hello, what's up, everybody?
Not bad.
Good to see you all. Very happy to be back, season 2. And yeah, I felt like you needed a professional to comment on that song, so why not?
I did actually. And you are a professional, so
I am.
What's your professional opinion on what we've just been subjected to?
It was a song.
It was. Well, this was one of the things that I think people overlook is that it's a song.
It's definitely a song.
Not everyone will understand that.
By the way, just quickly, I might be distracted for a little bit because the game's still going on. But
that's okay. Well, you're a professional.
Barcelona have a 2-goal lead against 10 men, and there's 20 minutes left, so there's nothing else happening in the game. So
multiple news coming to you over today's Last Days live stream. We have updates on the Barcelona game, and we have updates on the US election, which has been won by Joe Biden. So once again, congratulations to America.
Yes.
For throwing out a dictator.
I'm very thankful that apart from 70 million people somehow, most of America got it right this time.
Yeah.
And just a quick explanation, and this is not being super knowledgeable. I literally read this on the New York Times. The reason why CNN is able to call Pennsylvania is because Biden's lead over Trump in Pennsylvania is higher now than the number that would trigger a recount. So because he's cleared any doubt, there doesn't need to be a recount in Pennsylvania.
It's a little bit like the number of wins that Arthur has in the Last Days quiz. Once it reaches a certain level above Marky Kimmy.
I'm preparing something special for next week. I'm just telling you that. I haven't completed yet the process, but I'm about to. And next week there might be a little surprise. That's all.
Are you suggesting there's going to be a recount? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm waiting for Trump's campaign to tell me to file the lawsuit. So let's just say there might be.
But definitely, Renato, you're a professional and you run on cold pizza. Everyone should know that.
Oh yes. By the way, I made pizza last night, and I'm about to have it cold. So it would be my very first experience of having cold pizza that I made, which I'm very excited for.
This is going to make you really annoyed, Renato. Yesterday, Deanna's parents went out and they came home thinking that we needed some food when Deanna had already made a curry, and they brought back a pizza thinking that we needed food, but we didn't. So the pizza went straight in the fridge and we didn't even have it hot, but Deanna warmed me up some slices earlier today.
What's wrong with you people? What's wrong with you people? Come on, man. You can't do that. Take the opportunity. It's there in the fridge. Just try it once.
Now, while you watch the dying minutes of the Barcelona game, Renato, seething at the revelation that I've had cold pizza warmed up, I think it would be nice to give you a little bit more time to acclimatise to this clearly highbrow conversation. And the best way to do that is to have a little bit of sophistication and culture, because I understand Arthur has prepared a poem standing in for Sasha.
So what I'm about to tell you in the next few seconds is a poem that I actually wrote to Sasha 2 days ago. And it's about voting, because we had a first poem on the U.S. elections in Wednesday, when half of the poem was my lyrics, half of the poem was Sasha's lyrics, and here goes one short little poem about voting. I voted once when I was 11 for a greater ruler who is now in heaven. I voted by taking a dive in the baptism pool, so I patiently await the kingdom to rule. I remain neutral to any earthly affair, 'cause Jehovah and Jesus to no one can I compare. While earthly rulers accuse each others of lies, I pledge allegiance to Christ for eternal life in the coming paradise.
Well, what I will say to that, Arthur, is I'm deeply moved. It may not look like it, but inside I'm crying. You've really profoundly moved me with those words. I can see Renato's crying. He's either crying or... Yeah, see, he's sobbing there. You've really moved him. And Renato very rarely does he cry, because he's a professional, of course. But
that was a moment.
That was a moment.
Moment in time.
And that's something we can also say about Sing Along with Arthur. That was a moment.
Yes.
Well, I'm racing with destiny.
This video might be taken down if you sing the wrong song. So just letting you know.
I feel as though we've gone
No,
from
it's fair use.
breaking new ground with Arthur's
nice.
air violin to potentially breaking the internet. So can we get some reaction? Simon Instone saying, I voted for Biden and so did my dog. I think that's fake news. I think if that were a tweet, that would need to be censored.
Don't let Trump see that. He's going to believe
it. David Johnston says, it would be interesting if Trump would leave the White House graciously or leave kicking and... I think he's already kicking and screaming. I think that's already happening, isn't it?
He was an election night, because he already said that all the million votes shouldn't be counted because they weren't cast on election night. So according to him, only the election night votes counted, even though with the election night votes, he was still behind after a few hours. So I love John Oliver, as I'm sure most people do. And he talked about this. He did a segment a few weeks ago that he said, it's going to be like this. Trump's going to jump out to a big lead early on because most of his supporters will vote on election night. And the mail-in votes will be Democrat. And Biden will probably win after a few days. So don't panic if you vote for Joe Biden. And that's exactly what happened.
It's really quite astonishing, really, because you need a smooth transfer of power, don't you, in any democratic process, and you need the one who's lost the election to actually acknowledge it. And what we're seeing is kind of like that fascinating thing that we don't get to see ever, because the loser always concedes, and now we get to see, I think, what happens when the loser doesn't concede, and how far it goes.
Yeah, the elections were rigged. No, don't stop the counting. Stop counting the votes, goddammit.
And what's most interesting is that he only asked to stop the count on the states he was losing. Arizona is still counting the votes, Nevada, but he still has a chance in those states. And he didn't mention those states at all. He didn't say to stop the count there. Just Georgia and Pennsylvania, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Rihanna Royer says we are not going to get a smooth transfer of power. Trump's ego will never let him. It's going to be fascinating to see whether they actually need to drag him out of the White House. I can kind of imagine that happening, In
an orange straitjacket, probably.
God. And Paul Schlachter saying Trump has no concept of grace.
And not even of undeserved kindness.
I think we can put this to bed. I would guess Trump is running again in 2024. He can't, can he?
He can, yeah.
He can for
Absolutely.
the second term. Yes.
Yeah. You
For the
can
second
have
term.
3 terms in a row, but you can lose and go back. It's totally fine.
I
He
didn't know
said
that.
he will. He said he will. That if
Oh,
you
wow.
lost the election, but I would guess that he's probably going to create Trump TV and try to be a political analyst and stuff like. Try to keep his followers going, and then he's going to fall in love with that. And he's over 70 now, so
To the extent he can do from a prison cell, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, probably. But I don't think he is, or at least I'm trying to talk myself into his not. But he might fall in love with something else. Plus, being president is really hard, and I'm sure he didn't quite enjoy the last 4 years. I would say he just doesn't want to lose the power, but he was never qualified, and it showed for 4 years. And I think
in the first place, yeah.
And I think he knows that.
Let's hope that this doesn't happen. Rianne's saying just wait till Orange Temper Tantrum calls out war. He threatened that in tweets, and his sons did as well. I think that's... Look, this is the problem, and you know, one of the reasons why I've been so vocal in criticizing Trump is I think it's not just a case of a political leader whose ideas I disagree with. I'm seeing the same cult dynamics in Trump, and this is exactly the danger you have when a cult leader gets a huge following with guns. It sounds outlandish. It sounds like that could never happen, but there's just no guarantees, are there?
No, and that's concerning, and I'm very worried for what's going to happen in the next few weeks until he concedes, until he tells his people to let it go, because he's letting it go, but he won't. And I'm really worried what's going to happen.
Indeed. So, good job. The Last Days live stream is here to document the whole thing unfold as we edge deeper into the last days with the undoubted chaos that's going to befall us.
It's going to be weird.
It really
yes,
is.
we are actually living in the days of mixed iron and clay toes of the image in Nebuchadnezzar's dream.
The user whose name I'd prefer not to repeat. So Stephen Hassan has talked a lot about those cult dynamics. Yeah, I'm aware that Stephen Hassan has a book on the cult of Trump.
Yes. Published by Simon & Schuster.
One interesting conversation I've been following is, you know, to what extent do we kind of forgive and forget? You know, the forgive and forget mantra has a triggering response among XJWs, but to what extent do we forgive and forget those who empowered Trump by voting for him? They're presumably not going anywhere, at least the majority of them aren't. How do we build bridges and how do we reconcile? I noticed Steve Hassan has been tweeting very much along the lines of we need to treat them as we would cult followers who've been, you know, led along by a cult leader. And I don't know, I struggle because I think it's not, I understand what he's saying, that you know, Trump uses cult tactics, and a lot of people have been led along by highly manipulative tactics that Trump's been using. But I think it's a little bit more nuanced because it's also about politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you could hate what who Trump is and what he stands for, but still vote for him because he happens to be more in line with your political views. You know, let's say, for example, on race. You know, so that's why I struggle to be as. I like to think that there should be a path for redemption and a path for healing, but I don't think that it's just a case of putting an arm around a Trump supporter and say, "Oh, we're good now, aren't we?" You know, that there needs to be, I don't know,
a certain nuance between them. Mm-hmm.
I think one important difference to me, and you touched on it, is that when we talk about a high control group like Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, it does affect the lives of people, but it's a small group compared to a nation of 300 million people or whatever the population of the U.S. is. So the cult following elected the leader of the free world. So he has a cult with 70 million followers who affect the life of everyone else on Earth, because what the United States do affects the whole world, of course.
Precisely.
So I understand that we have to be sympathetic to those who follow Trump blindly, because there's a lot of cult there. But also, they elected the leader of the free world who did a lot of messed up stuff the last 4 years. So it is hard there, and
there's a balance to be struck, isn't there?
Absolutely. I
Between
think
just blindly forgiving and extending some pathway for redemption.
Yeah,
you know?
And a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2016 voted for Trump because they hated Hillary, too. So that's the problem. Hillary messed up her candidacy so much that she gave people no choice but to go against her, too. So he wasn't just elected in 2016 because he got this huge following. It's because the Democrats did a poor job of putting a competent opponent in front of him. So,
true, although I'm not sure that excuses voting for Trump. It certainly excuses not voting for Hillary.
No,
but,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's one of the reasons. Not
the way the Democratic Party cannibalized itself and sabotaged itself in the run-up to the 2016 election certainly didn't help, and played straight into Trump's hands, didn't it?
And as soon as they put a competent guy in Joe Biden who said the right things and who played it fair down the middle, who never tried to trigger the Trump supporters, he only said the right things. I'm going to govern for everyone. I don't hate you. We're not enemies. I'm going to do this the way it's supposed to be done in the democracy. He got the win. So it doesn't take, and it's not like Joe Biden's is the sharpest tool in the shed or anything like that. So, but he's competent enough to beat Donald Trump. So
I was talking to Deanna about this. It feels as though, because obviously I'm fairly left-leaning. I'm not full left, but I am fairly left-leaning, and I think that there's a lot of room in America for there to be more progressive policies. I would probably align myself more with the likes of Bernie, and Bernie had a huge following. But if Bernie had succeeded, I don't think we would be here having this conversation. I think that America is so kind of set in its ways in terms of guns and not wanting social public health care and that kind of thing, that it had to be someone who was in the center. And Joe Biden was basically plumb center, wasn't he? He's almost, some were calling him like Republican light. And if he hadn't been able to appeal to such a broad spectrum of voters, including, I think it was the Lincoln Project that were getting behind Joe Biden, I think it needed to be someone who can just pull everyone together. And who knows, maybe in the future there'll be space for there to be a push towards more progressive ideas. But at least for now, there's a sticking plaster.
For sure. And from what I've been reading too, obviously the main focus of the Democratic Party in this election and whoever voted for Biden was to get rid of Trump. That was the number one focus. But a lot of Democratic voters, and certainly the Democratic Party as a whole, is seeing Biden as kind of a transition to the new generation. You got Kamala Harris as his vice president. There's not a small chance that she might be the president in the not so distant future, and she's considered the future of the party. So they see Biden as kind of the perfect bridge between the past and the future. And it's just like you said, he managed to unite all the Democrats, and even the Bernie supporters who were against Biden ended up voting for him because he presented himself as a fair enough candidate to represent the values that they stood for.
And you don't have to do much, do you, when you're up against Trump? I think one of the ways that Biden was very clever in how he played this was to just let Trump do the talking, you know? Trump was kind of teasing him for staying in his basement. That was exactly what Biden needed to do, was just, for the most part, just stay out of the spotlight and let Trump talk himself into the ground. And that worked brilliantly. Yeah.
The one thing you can't do is get into a war of words with Trump. If you do that, you're going to lose, and he's going to get empowered because of that. Yeah. And that's what happened in the first debate. Like, the first debate was a mess because Biden kept trying to get down to Trump's level, I guess. And the "will you shut up, man" moment, that Biden just told Trump to shut up. I felt at that moment he might hurt himself here by telling Trump to shut up, because that's exactly what Trump supporters need to be even more supportive of Trump. And after the debate, he became much more calm. He never engaged with Trump on anything. And even when Trump was declaring himself the winner on election night, Biden didn't do a whole speech saying, oh, he's crazy, he's wrong, it's all BS. He just said, let's let the American people decide. I don't call a winner, he doesn't call a winner, the voters do. So he didn't engage in any war of words, and he did a good job at that.
Yeah, he played fair.
Yep.
Rihanna saying, actually, the majority of America is fairly progressive, but we have corporate Democrats and far-right Republicans that keep us from exploring. Yeah, I kind of I can sympathize with that view. It does seem a lot like the establishment sort of is blocking some things from happening, and that's depressing, but we can only do the best we can. America had an opportunity to at least get rid of an authoritarian despot, and they managed to do that. And who knows, maybe as the next generation of politicians comes through, as Renato was alluding to, maybe we'll see things start to change in the future. But we can only do the best with the hand that we're dealt. America has done the best it can, and given a lot of people hope, because one thing that's been frustrating on Twitter and elsewhere is when you get Republicans or Trump followers saying, oh, you're not even American. Well, why do you get a say in what happens in our country? As you guys have pointed out or alluded to, what happens in America affects the whole world. We're talking about a world leader who is able to just start wars on a whim, international wars involving large coalitions, and who has his finger on the nuclear codes. So the whole world, for better or worse, is invested in what goes on in America, and I think has a right to share their views on what's going on.
Yes, and even if those coalitions turn out to become Gog of Magog, who knows?
Gog of Magog. Yeah, in the Situation Room right now, in Trump's war cabinet, there's a picture of Sam Hurd on the monitors, isn't there? Almost certainly, seeing what Sam Hurd's up to.
Yeah,
whether he's having his nap or not.
Yeah, sitting in the sofa and reading.
No, in his womb chair. They're checking to see whether Sam's in his womb chair.
Yeah,
I wonder how many times in the governing body meetings, like Mark Sanderson had just to elbow bump Sam, like, Sam, wake up.
I bet there's like a button, on the boardroom table, because obviously they had the chance to design all of this and make it bespoke for the new Warwick headquarters. And I bet they already planned where Sam was going to sit, and they have a special button just to send a little jolt into him if he's falling asleep. Can you imagine? just press the button and Sam just like,
directly into his veins.
What did you say, Mark? Or was it David? Who spoke last? I was a bit asleep,
I agree. I agree. Whatever you guys say.
Eric Larson says, folks, it's okay to have opinions for one side or the other, but please don't resort to insulting one another. Yes, please. Eric is moderating away. Renato is also a moderator, but he's somewhat distracted and also being a professional.
So I thought the game was over when I joined. It was 3-1. It's now 5-2. What the heck?
5-2 to who?
Barcelona. Like the goals are coming thick and fast as I tried to keep up.
Gosh.
Another goal just went in. It's crazy.
Like a Fox says it would be awesome if the button made a fist with a boxing glove pop out and bop him in the face. That would, just the idea of that gives me a lot of pleasure. I mean, depending on who sat in the chair, I could have enormous fun. Maybe we could have like someone could design a video game where you have the governing body sat around a conference table and you get to push the button with the boxing glove. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there in case anyone's good at designing these things. Not that I'm condoning violence towards the governing body. It's just a comedic.
No, it's just a light little
Just
shove
a tap.
into his face.
Just a tap with the boxing
Yeah.
glove. That's all this is. Barely ruffle the wrinkles on Stephen Let's.
As a very famous Brazilian song says, a little tap doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
And especially when your face has that elasticity that allows for a tap to be a bit harder and not be violent, actually, obviously, you know?
Yeah, so thank you for that, Arthur. Perhaps that would be a good point at which to conclude today's live stream. It's been an absolute thrill to have Arthur Weber join us from Romania, Renato joining us all the way from Brazil. We will be back on Wednesday, and next Saturday we will be having the return of the Last Days quiz. Who's playing? Because it's all in a league system now.
Team O'Donnell and Havilicious.
Indeed. So Team O'Donnell and Team Havilicious are first
The
up.
best name. It's better than Arthur's Knights. Havilicious. It's better than Arthur's Knights. Easily.
Havilicious is kind of like a word that we kind of rib Javier with. So yeah, it's kind of an inside joke.
Because Javi is Havilicious as
Exactly.
a producer.
As a man, as a legend in all sorts of ways. He's Havilicious.
He's the best.
He is brilliant. So he's going to be fighting it out against Arthur's Knights, Team O'Donnell, and Team D'Souza. And Renato won't be taking any nonsense. He's going to be my co-host for all of those shows.
Huge announcement next week.
Huge announcement next week.
It's going to be very important.
Is it huge in a Donald Trump way, or is it huge in an actual way?
Yeah, it's gonna be tremendous. Tremendous announcement. It's fantastic. It's tremendous. It's incredible. Best announcement ever. Don't worry. Don't forget to tune next week. Next week's going to be the best ratings in the history of the live stream.
Just a reminder that you can watch the Last Days live stream on youtube.com/John Cedars, facebook.com/Lloyd Evans Cedars, and twitch.tv/Lloyd Evans. Arthur Weber wants to say something.
That was the very best of Donald Trump impersonation by our very own Renato Gonçalves.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. That was lovely. And viewers, please remember, stay safe, stay positive, and we will see you in our next show. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.